This year, the Children's Food Trust marks its 10th anniversary. Since it was created as the School Food Trust in 2005, it's touched the lives of millions of children, teachers, families and food industry professionals. Here are just some of the highlights. The School Food Trust is born out of the furore created by Jamie Oliver's School Dinners series, set up by the Department for Education and Skills with £15 million of funding. Its task? To improve children's health by transforming food in schools and getting pupils back into their dining rooms.
What on earth is that?
I think it's a fish or a chicken foot.
I honestly have no idea what is in that.
The Trust leads the launch of national school food standards, first in primary schools, then in secondary schools in 2007. For the first time in decades, school food has to be nutritionally balanced.
I joined the Children's Food Trust, as it was then, School Food Trust, 8 years ago, and that was just after all the Jamie Oliver furore and the new school food standards were just being introduced, and at that time it was really tough for the Trust. I'd been a caterer, so I get just how tough it was, because lots of people really didn't think it could be done. So this was the first time ever that school food standards had to be implemented by law. There was no choice about it. And then, huge milestone for them, getting them introduced. 10 years later, we have those same organisations and same people that were saying it couldn't be done at the time, actually fighting to keep those standards. I mean, what an achievement is that?
The rise of convenience foods and schools' focus away from practical cooking skills has left a nation that can't cook or won't cook. The Trust has a vision for a national network of school cooking clubs. £20 million of big lottery funding over 5 years is secured to begin Let's Get Cooking, creating 5,000 cooking clubs and becoming the biggest network of its kind.
Well, Let's Get Cooking got started because we were really aware that lots of children were growing up eating a diet that was very high in fat, salt and sugar, and really not having the skills at home with parents being able to cook for them. So we wanted to get the nation cooking again. My top tip to encourage people to cook at home is visit our Let's Get Cooking at Home website. We've got hundreds of really healthy recipes. We write them ourselves. They're all nutritionally analysed, and just have a go. It's really good fun. Nothing more rewarding than cooking a meal for people that you care about, seeing the look of pleasure on their faces. So I would encourage everybody to have a go.
The Trust receives an additional capital grant of £2.7 million to set up a network of 16 school feast training centres, dedicated bases for training school cooks. The first ever Big Cookathon is launched as a celebration event for the Let's Get Cooking Club network. Since that first event, more than 100,000 people have taken part in the annual campaign that aims to get the nation cooking. Meanwhile, our annual school meals take-up figures become a national statistic.
Get your cookers out for the cookathon. Because if you want to cook, then cook today.
Rob Rees takes over as chair of the board from Prue Leith. The Trust publishes the first evidence of the impact of school food standards, with 2/3 of primary school children now taking veg or salad with their lunch and saturated fat, salt and sugar all down in the average meal.
I think at the time there was lots of work going on to change school food itself, but actually there was lots of work behind the scenes as well to convince families that the change was real, it was really happening. You know, they'd seen all of these programmes on TV, and caterers really needed to convince parents in particular that the food their children was now eating in school was so much better for them. And the results really down the line are really now measurable, and that's what the great thing is. So children genuinely are eating much less salt, fat and sugar in their school meals than they were 10 years ago. And so the change is more long term, I think, for parents to be able to see, but it's really visible now.
The Trust puts its support behind the Save Our School Food Standards campaign as it prepares to publish the first evidence of the impact of school food standards in secondary schools. The proportion of teenagers having chips for lunch has plummeted from 43% to 7%, and there's a mixed picture of food in schools not meeting standards. Meanwhile, the Trust learns it will no longer operate as a non-departmental public body. Charity status means our work will continue regardless, but the task of raising income in different ways begins in earnest. The Trust's food and drink guidelines for childcare providers are created, becoming the industry standard and DFE's recommended approach. They've now helped 11,000 families through working with nurseries, children's centres, childminders and preschools. The Trust begins to widen the reach of Let's Get Cooking thanks to a grant from the newly formed People's Health Trust. We launch clubs focusing on men and boys, people with mental health problems, children with special educational needs and foster carers. The incredible response from these club members suggests we're on to something very special. Judy Hargaden steps down as CEO and Linda Cregan takes over at the helm. The school food plan is published, giving the school meals agenda a shot in the arm. It includes recommendations to put more practical cooking into the curriculum and to make school meals free for all primary school pupils. Government greenlights the curricula change and presses ahead with free meals for all infants, but gives schools less than a year to prepare. The Trust wins a competitive tender with LASA to run the national helpline for those already struggling. With regional contracts to support local authorities, childcare providers, community groups and employers coming in well by now, a chance meeting at an exhibition marks the start of a valuable national relationship with the country's largest retailer, Tesco. Our first joint project sees us running pop-up cooking sessions in 50 Tesco stores, reaching 1,400 children. Not bad for our first shot at direct delivery.
I would say working for the Trust has been absolutely fantastic, being able to deliver direct to the people that really need it the most, particularly in the Tesco project, where we're working with groups of children and their parents who come on such a journey in such a short space of time. The difference in the confidence and their abilities from day 1 to day 3 is amazing, and being able to actually be part of that is absolutely fantastic.
We win a competitive tender to help deliver the national Love Food Hate Waste programme in 10 cities. Tesco's Eat Happy project confirms it will fund our Let's Get Cooking clubs in primary schools for the next 2 years, as well as 1,000 new clubs in Scotland. We gear up for another summer of pop-up cooking classes in their stores. Meanwhile, Iceland Foods Charitable Foundation chooses us as one of its charities of the year.
It's been such an amazing decade for the Children's Food Trust, was then School Food Trust, and here's to the next 10 years of success.